Hello, my friends. I'm Joe Nabrotzky from your Garrett HR team, and this is the introductory video for a new course I created for leaders at Garrett called Management Essentials. So what are you going to get out of this module? This session is for you if you currently manage people and you want to see if this course is right for you, or if you're a manager or someone who wants to attend, as this is going to show you what tangible results leaders will get from participating. I plan to show why every leader, including you, will want to register. And lastly, if this is something you're interested in, I'll give instructions on how to reserve your spot. Here are the 5 topics we'll cover. But for this specific session, part 1, we'll focus on understanding the problem. Why was this course created in the first place? And what problems will it help you solve? I believe there are 3 big problems leaders face. You face them, and I face them. The faster you can narrow down your focus and understand the problems you're trying to solve, the more effective and efficient you'll be at getting the results that you want. First, ask yourself, do people want to join our company or do they want to leave it? Same thing for your team that you personally manage. Are people fighting to join your team or are more excited to leave it? Attrition, meaning people are leaving, it's also called turnover, presents so many additional challenges. There's increased cost. For example, the cost of turnover of a manager is 100-150% of their yearly base salary. Now, it's still 75 to 100% for a skilled hourly worker or closer to 200 for a more senior leader. There's also lost time because you have to hire their replacement. There's additional strain on the organization because they're scrambling to pick up that additional workload. And think of the impact on the culture for the employees when they keep seeing good people consistently walk out the door. Now, I believe we have a problem, but it's not just that good people are leaving, it's worse. They disengage and stay. So while there's many different reasons why people leave or they disengage, there's one common thread, and I'll explain with the story. My friend was once at a sporting event with her young son, and in the crowd she spotted her boss, and he came up and started chatting for a little bit. When he left, the son turned to my friend and said, "Hey, Mom, I know who that was. He is they." She was taken back a little bit. She didn't really know what he meant. And he said, "You know how you're always coming home frustrated at the end of the day and you say, I can't believe what they did or they are doing these different things at work. They don't know what they're talking about." He is the they you're always complaining about. Now, leaders, guess what? You are they. That's the role of a manager. You also get all the title of they anytime your employee thinks or talks about what's happening at work. Problem number 1 that you face as a leader is attrition and disengagement. So if they don't address it, which means if you as their manager don't address this, you're going to keep losing good talent, mentally as they check out and eventually physically as they leave. How many on your team right now are actively engaged? And what value do you think it would bring if you could change that? And it's not because you and me, we want to be bad bosses. Some of you may be thinking, but hey, I actually am a great manager. I do a lot of the right things already. And let's be honest, you're being considered for this course because you are top talent. You're doing many different things right. But I found that every manager can still do and be better. Early in my career, I moved across the country to start a new company. Now, while at the same time, I was starting a new family. My wife, Brittany, she was 6 months pregnant at the time. So both mom and baby, they counted on me to support them. And I remember thinking many different restless nights, how am I going to even pay for diapers? How am I going to put food on the table? Success was no longer a want. It was now a necessity. So fortunately, after many different failing forwards that come with being an entrepreneur, our small company that consisted of just me and 3 hands-off investors, we started having success. So we decided to grow. Great news, right? Wrong. There was a big problem. Although I studied business, I even majored in leadership. As I started hiring people, I became a stressed out manager. I struggled leading people. I was a bad boss. The results that I had worked so hard to reach when it was just me, they started deteriorating when I began to build out my team. My past success came from my technical and functional skills. I knew finance or marketing or how to talk to a customer. So when it was just me, I did all the work from strategy to execution and I got the results that I wanted. But now it was all different. When I moved from an individual contributor to a manager of people, I was no longer responsible for the results I could solely produce, but I was responsible for the people who are responsible for producing those results. You switch from taking all the actions yourself to serving, coaching, developing the people who are then taking those actions. And as an individual contributor, you're measured on the results that you can produce. As a manager, you're still accountable for those results, but you're also measured on the people you develop to get those results. Problem number 2, managing people requires a different mindset and a different skill set. So in my situation, it required different muscles that I hadn't yet built. I needed new management practices and tools that most don't either properly learn about or appropriately apply. How about you? You probably started off as a great employee, as an individual contributor. Maybe you were a great engineer or some functional expert. And we thought, well, if you were so good and great at that, you'll probably be great at a bigger role. So great, in fact, that you were promoted to now manage people. But what made you great as an individual contributor will not be what makes you successful at managing people. No wonder these employees leave, or they stay and they disengage. So like me, many of these managers with good intent simply didn't know what being a great boss looked like. Yet still others knew, but didn't do. And it's not just first-time managers. These problems pop up at every level all the way to the C-suite. Committed to find a better way, I went on a crusade to find out the best of the best on leadership. What really works in the real world. Becoming a better manager can be learned. Great managers aren't only born, they can be built. The results I wanted improved with deliberate, daily practice of proven principles. I went from dreading the management drama to loving leading. I grew from doing things myself to getting results with and for others. All this led me to discover the third big problem in leading others, especially in leading yourself. Left unsupervised, the human brain, for both you and those you lead, will do the exact opposite of what's needed to get the results you both want. So before you can try to lead or influence somebody else, you must first learn to manage your own mind. You need a process and some tools to understand your brain, and then a way to use your mind to power you to take actions that will lead to the results that you want. The results that you have in your life, they don't just happen to you. You co-created them. And if you don't purposefully create a vision of the future results that you want and then lead your own brain, your brain's going to keep choosing 3 things: avoid pain, seek pleasure, and be efficient, all with the goal of survival. Now notice I didn't say thrive, but just survive. So let's start with avoiding pain. Our brains will naturally protect us from feeling pain. When I put my hand on a fire, it hurts. And my brain tells me, hey, don't put your hand on that fire again. There's danger there. But our brain doesn't fully comprehend the difference between physical pain and emotional discomfort. It just knows something doesn't feel good. And so it's going to protect us by trying to avoid it. So think about it. What doesn't feel good? Failing, trying something new and having it not immediately work out, that doesn't feel good. Or giving feedback. When you're giving feedback to an employee on an area where they can improve, a lot of times that doesn't feel good. So while seeking to avoid pain or these feelings that are uncomfortable to feel, your brain is going to tell you to stay away because it's helping you avoid danger. So you either lower your expectations so you don't feel the feelings of disappointment, or you find ways to avoid feeling those negative emotions. You know, the type of feelings when you're stressed, you're frustrated, you're sad, you're bored, disappointed. I call these pleasure-seeking emotional escapes. And we go into them in detail about what they are and how to address them in the course. So it's when you feel an emotion that you don't like, you try to avoid it by going after an emotion that you do like, an emotion that does feel good. And there are so many pleasure-seeking emotional options. Think about how you feel after a long day that didn't go well. What do you do when you feel sad, depressed, bored, defeated, or stressed? That's going to tell you what your pleasure-seeking emotional escape is. And it usually comes in overdoing something. So for me, it's food. I don't think to myself, oh, I'm going to drown myself in an ice cream tonight because I want to escape feeling these crappy emotions. But my brain does it without consciously realizing it. And I don't just eat food, I overeat. And that bowl of ice cream turns into a few, And then I'm wondering the next day, who ate all my mint chocolate chip? So maybe your emotional escape is alcohol. And one glass of wine to relax at the end of the day turns into more, and you overdrink to numb those emotions. For many, it's social media. You get a shot of dopamine, that good feeling that is in your brain, when someone likes your post and you start over Instagramming, over Facebooking, spending hours scrolling down the different posts. All these, when overdone, are emotional escapes. You seek that dopamine shot that's going to give you that good feeling because we want to avoid feeling bad and seek what feels good. So what happens? What happens is you don't go after your dreams. You don't go through feeling that fear of rejection, the fear of failure, which are all part of the path to success. And what you don't realize is that fear from emotional discomfort, not physical danger, but it does not mean something's wrong. Fear does not mean stop. Fear is a part of our life, and in many cases, taking action while you feel fear and discomfort is exactly what's needed to get the results that you actually want. Now, what if you weren't afraid to feel any emotion, even the really uncomfortable ones, because you knew what was on the other side of that feeling? You knew feeling that way was the currency to reach your dreams. There's a level of confidence that you get when you no longer have to turn to emotional escapes, since you know there's no feeling you can't handle. But many don't know how to gain confidence, or this process of how do I even understand, name, and process my emotions. Third, our brain wants to be efficient. It wants to expend minimal effort. We have tens of thousands of thoughts that are going through our brain any day, most of them being the same ones you've always thought. And your brain doesn't have a way of knowing which thoughts are important and which ones are not. Unless you tell it what to think and you direct it, it's going to naturally avoid pain, seek pleasure, and be efficient because it's trying to help you survive. So our brain, it's going to try to be the most efficient it can be. So after it has a thought that it has repeated so often, it's going to tuck it into the back of your mind so that you don't have to process it anymore. And it can move on to other thoughts. It will take the path of least resistance to be efficient. Now think about it. This is good. Think about the first time that you were driving. You initially had so many different data points coming in. Put your hands on 10 and 2. Check the rear view mirrors. Push the gas, the brake, check your speed. But over time, your brain found the same thoughts that help you drive, and it would tuck them into the back of your mind so you could focus on other thoughts. Now, this is why you can sometimes drive all the way to work and then you realize you have no idea how you got there. Your mind was on autopilot. So if you leave it to your unconscious brain, when you start to look into the future, it's going to automatically pull up the thoughts that were tucked in the back of your brain from the past. It doesn't automatically create new thoughts. It doesn't know how to believe bigger. So when you're looking at your past to define where you're going to go and what you can do in the future, we keep limiting what we can achieve to the highest level we've proven to reach in the past, but nothing more. So this concept is why some business leaders, they can't seem to ever get past a certain revenue number, or why some people can't seem to lose weight beyond a certain point or keep it off permanently. Your brain will keep preparing the future by thinking of the ideas that you believed in the past. Unless you consciously reprogram your brain to believe new thoughts of what the future could be, you'll never succeed beyond whatever point you previously reached. That is the problem. Okay, so let's summarize the three main problems you face as a leader. First, attrition and disengagement. People join a company but often leave or disengaged because of their view of their manager and the culture that that leader creates. And since you represent they, you want to provide a culture where they're actively engaged and they willingly give their discretionary effort. Second, manager mindset and skill sets. You are no longer responsible for the results you can solely produce, but are responsible for the people who are responsible for producing those results. Managing people requires a different mindset and skill sets than what made you successful as an individual contributor. Skills most haven't properly learned or appropriately applied. With leadership, common knowledge is not always common practice. Third, managing your mind. Left unsupervised, the human brain for both you and those you lead will do the exact opposite of what's needed to get the results you all want. So before you can try to lead or influence somebody else, you need a process and the tools to understand your brain, and then a way to use your mind to power you to take actions that are going to lead to the results that you want. Now, to make matters worse, most of us have no clue what thoughts are even going through our brain. We don't realize there's a difference between our life and the thoughts we're thinking in our brain about our life. And if the problem is that your unsupervised brain will do the exact opposite of what's needed to get the desired results, the solution is to deliberately lead yourself, to manage your own mind. But think about it. How do you learn how to do that? And where do you learn and apply all the other management mindsets and skill sets that I'm talking about as part of this gap? If we don't address these problems, we won't get the results we all want. We'll keep losing good talent, and the people that still are here won't be willing or able to lead us into the future. So now that you know the problems, you're ready to uncover the solution. In the next module, part 2, that's what we'll cover.